Hello, and welcome to the weekly LinkedIn Live leadership series, Voices of Leadership. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kathy Eastwood, your host and CEO of E=Y. Each week, we explore the fascinating world of leadership, featuring voices from various generations, industries, and backgrounds. A team's job is to deliver business results. It's the role of the leader to empower, inspire, and enable the people and the team to deliver those results. There's a repeatable formula to drive that success: the E3 leadership code: express plus engage plus execute, powered by emotions. However, each leader's approach to applying the E3 leadership code is unique because there's no one way to lead. It's really about showing up as yourself. So each week we'll meet different leaders, and we're so excited to have you here. And what we'd love for you to do is introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know where you're dialing in from, and feel free to ask questions, and we will try to get to all of the questions that we can. So let's get started, because I'm very excited to introduce you my next guest, Dr. Chris Bittinger. Chris isn't someone I've actually known for long, and from the moment we connected, it was clear that we were meant to meet. We instantly clicked over our shared passion for coaching and helping leaders grow. Like me, he is the founder of a leadership development firm called Open Pivot, where he's coached thousands of leaders and teams. But what really stood out for me is his work as a professor at Purdue. Chris isn't just preparing students for the workplace, he's shaping the kind of leaders we all want to work for. He brings this rare blend of real world business experience and academic insight that is so needed right now. Chris, I'm so glad you're here. I did the quick intro, but I would love for you to tell our audience a bit about yourself and your journey and what led you to this work.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kathy. I'm thrilled to be here. Happy to share my story with you. Uh, so I say this, I started my business through a career crisis. It was back in 2009. I called myself well compensated and miserable. So I was with an awesome firm, great people, great culture, and I just didn't like what I was doing. And so I realized I got to make a change. So I picked up this book called Getting Unstuck,
Mm-hmm.
which is a career guide, and got done with the book. And I emailed Timothy Butler and I said, "Dear Dr. Butler, I'm stuck. Please help." And I still have the email. And he said, "I'd be happy to help you." And then I went through this like massive career exploration process. I got to meet he had me meet, or his team had me meet 90 people in areas of interest, career interest. So I talked to coaches and fundraisers and nonprofit leaders, and realized I love to coach and train and to see people flourish. So then I launched Open Pivot a few years after that. No clients, just a vision to see people succeed and flourish. That was like 2012. So like May is my 13th year
Wow.
anniversary. So it's been 13 years.
Congrats.
Yeah,
That's
thank
amazing.
you. And then okay, so the Purdue piece has been on my heart. Like teaching at Purdue has been on my heart since, gosh, forever. I'd love to teach at Purdue. So during COVID, I thought, okay, now is my chance to get my doctorate. So I was standing right in my office here. Everything was shutting down. I said, I'm doing it. So I enrolled in the Penn GSC CLO program, wrote my dissertation on coaching and stress, applied to a Purdue position, and they allowed me to come teach in their OL organizational leadership program, which has been awesome.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so that's been like the last 2 years. So I teach like project management, and I teach leadership, and I taught a coaching class this last fall. So it's been fantastic. I love it. I love the students. I love my coaching business. So I get to kind of do both. Like you said, it's kind of a nice intersection. So I get to bring business to the classroom and the classroom to business. And I love that part.
Well, I want to come back to that
Yeah.
absolutely because there's so much when we spoke last time. I think our audience would love to hear. But
Mm,
let me take a step back when you talked about, that the crisis that you were in and really finding your dream job,
mm,
right? What did tell us a little bit more about that book, Getting Unstuck. What was it
mm,
that was really stuck out for you? Like, oh yeah, I need to talk to this man that wrote this book.
mm. Well, a few things that he discusses. I think it's chapter 1. He talks about the career impasse, where you get in this cycle. You have accomplishments. You then realize this isn't for you. Your heart begins to wither, and then you gear up and you just say, "I'm going to keep going." And you get into this cycle, and so you have to break through the impasse and find sort of uh, sort of find that sense of calling or that sense of purpose where you bring in the skills to something that's meaningful to you.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that really resonated for me, and it was actually my daughter who I was tucking her in at night on a vacation, and we were in Michigan. She looked up at me and she said, "Dad, I really like you on vacation, and you come home at night at work from work a little grouchy." And
Mm.
I just knew, like, I knew it in my heart, but it was affirming from my daughter, like, you deserve this for yourself and for your family to find something meaningful for yourself.
Yeah, I love that, and it resonates with me a lot because I went through that in 17. I left
Mm,
corporate,
mm,
similar, walked away from a
mm.
role, and I was miserable. It was unhealthy relationships, my body was unhealthy, and I'm like, "I can't keep doing this."
Yeah,
And
Kathy, and that's really hard to do, right? Like that you had the courage to say, I gotta do something different. That's hard.
yeah,
It's really hard.
but the difference on the other side, and this is what I love talking to people about, when you're doing something you love, you
Mm,
suddenly recognize, like, oh, this is what life is meant to be.
mm,
And that term, what do you love? My
mm,
friends laugh at me. A couple of weeks ago we were doing a quiz about me, and they're like, the question was, what is Kathy's favorite phrase? And
mm,
they were all like, what would you love? And I love challenging people, like, what would you love? Because we tend to lead by fear, right? And we let that anxiety and that fear take over too often.
mm.
So I think this is probably why we're a little bit of kindred spirits. We both went after what we love.
Yeah, that's so great. That's a great question to have your friends give you a quiz. Yeah, find what you love. And I think there's truth to I believe this is in Native American culture, this idea of your career. There's the survival dance and the soul dance. And the survival dance is you got to make money and live and survive. And then eventually you choose to find your soul dance, that which is life-giving work that's meaningful to you, that resonates, that comes from your heart. I love that kind of idea, but it takes a while to get there, I think.
Yeah. And it's scary at times, but it's I remember asking myself the question, if I wasn't going to get paid and
Mm,
I could do anything because money wasn't an issue, what would I do? And
mm,
that was the catalyst. And I had one person I was having this conversation with, and I said, well, what if you could do anything? He's like, I want to be a race car driver. He was like 45 years old. And I'm like, don't think that's going to happen now.
mm,
But he went and got a job in marketing for a Formula One race car company. So
mm.
you can merge the two.
Yeah, absolutely. It may not be like the ultimate dream, but then maybe there's pieces, right? That's I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So was being a professor something that was, part of your dream and what you wanted to do?
Oh, absolutely. Because in that book, back to Getting Unstuck, I just love that book. 100 Jobs Exercise, university professor kept showing up.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, but I don't have a PhD and I don't know if I can do this. Um, I actually was a terrible student. I was diagnosed with ADHD at age 5. I struggled focusing. I'm like, how could I sit and write a dissertation, do the research? I just felt like I was at a deficit and I, confidence and focus. And then But I'm like, I've got to do this. I've always wanted to be here or be at Purdue. I've got to make this happen. So I just woke up every morning at like 4:30 or 5 and wrote. And
Wow.
my wife was amazing. She cheered me on, and I had a great cohort of people in my program that supported me. And so I still can't believe I did it.
It's impressive. I'm kudos to you because it's funny.
Oh,
That's something that has been on my bucket list somewhere. So you might be inspiring me to think
oh,
about it now.
oh yeah, you should go for it. You never, it's an amazing experience. You learn so much and it's incredibly hard. Yeah.
So how would you describe your leadership style, Chris?
Oh, yeah, I love, that's a great question. I think my style, it's relational. I think I tell my client, I know I tell my clients, in fact, I told one this morning, I said, embrace the idea of leading from who you are. So authentic leadership, I'd say, is another component. And I think serving others, I think so. Relational, service oriented, but also authentic, lead from who you are and embrace the strengths that you have. So that's what I try to do. I think I get in trouble when I look at someone else, say I need to be that, or I try to put on something that I'm not. That doesn't mean I don't stretch and get out of my comfort zone, but I think embracing those three have worked well for me.
I love it. And yeah, I'm right there with you of trying to help people really be who they want to be and show up. Because once you're authentic, it's a lot easier. You're not trying to
Mm.
remember, oh, did I tell them that? Is that my make believe self or the real self?
Yeah, that's great. What's yours, Kathy? I love what you shared about the ease, like your emotion. That comes. What comes to mind there is like being okay with that. But I'm curious what yours is.
Yeah, so I've always said I'm someone that leads from behind. I'm a servant leader.
Mm,
And I have a lot of red energy, right? So I love to run
mm,
to the fire, get things done, but I've learned that that can come across as very bossy, arrogant. So
mm,
I really focus on the nurturing side of things because we were talking about this before we came on live, right? Is the word love
mm.
in the business place. When you and how many times did we mention it today already, right? It's so much easier. So I really love finding people's true self, their authentic self, drawing that out, giving them
Mm,
permission,
mm,
because when we serve them, they then can serve
mm,
the mission.
mm.
And so that's my style. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
that's fantastic. I love it.
So when you think about how you've grown and where you've gotten to, did you have leaders that you have either modeled that were fantastic, or did you have some bad experiences? How do you think about how your style came about?
Mm. Well, I do. That's a great question. I do think you pull in and you leave that from those that have mentored or led you before. I do. That's so true. Yeah. So I'm reflecting on from my dad and mom to the manager I had at McDonald's to everywhere in between. So there's great and challenging with that. My dad modeled entrepreneurship to me, and he modeled a commitment to meaningful work, with his math textbook writing. My mom modeled servant leadership. I mean, she's a servant, so those two for sure. Uh, Gosh, and I've had great bosses that really challenged me and raised expectations and expected more, and that's instilled in me, that drive. But yeah, definitely a lot of people. Like all these images are coming as you ask that. I love that question because there's been so many great people
I love
along the
it.
way.
Now, you said something where people really challenged you and pushed you,
Mm,
and that was an act of kindness from them, right?
mm,
To help you along the way. Because I sometimes get like people tell me, oh, I don't like to be too hard on someone
mm,
because, you know, I, I'm scared I'm going to hurt them.
mm.
What's your thought to that kind of statement?
Oh, that's good. That comes up for me too. We should talk more about that. I think I think people want to achieve and they want to uh, reach goals. And I think a leader's job is to sort of push them on the edge of their outside the edge of their comfort zone and invite them to the growth zone. And I think that's a leader's job, so I think that's really important. So when I've had bosses that have done that, at the time I might resist because I was like, oh, isn't this good enough? And then now in retro, you look back and go, oh, that was really good for me. I needed that challenge, whether it was my dissertation chair or a couple of bosses that I've had. Like that was good for me. And I think it was always in the context of I understand how you're feeling and I expect this from you.
Mm,
I think you connect, warmth and high expectations. I think that's powerful. Or you connect empathy and expectations. I think those go well together.
yeah.
So I think
I,
it's both, isn't it?
yeah, definitely I agree. And I loved your statement, invite them to the growth zone.
Mm,
I'm
mm.
definitely going to coin that one if that's okay. Or
Oh, of course.
I need
Yeah.
to make sure
Yeah.
that I'll reference you on that one.
Well, in coaching, it's like, may I challenge you with something? Or in coaching, we also talk about raising the heat in the conversation a little bit and seeing, how hot we can go here with the challenge, and maybe setting context. Hey, may I challenge you here? Yeah, please. Then do it. Or
Yeah.
you know what? I'm not quite ready. Or what would be the next step that would maybe push you forward? That could be a good question.
Yeah. I love asking the question beforehand. Are you okay? Can I
Mm,
challenge you? Can I give you some
mm,
feedback? Like people aren't always in the mood, right, or in the right mind space, but a trick that I've used, I don't know if you've used this at all, but asking that question and then giving positive
mm,
insight,
mm,
because to reprogram ourselves, because we have a tendency to think as soon as someone says, hey, can I give you some feedback or can I challenge you, you
mm,
tense up.
mm,
And we need to reprogram people to recognize that it's actually healthy and good,
mm.
and that's how we grow.
Yes, no question. And yeah, and I find this, I don't know if you do, Kathy, the voices we sort of tell ourselves, the conclusions we draw that are usually not accurate, you know, uh, like we call them sort of false beliefs or stress maintaining thoughts or something like that. And then we try to reframe it with, okay, what would be more empowering here to kind of challenge you forward? So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Hmm.
All right, so now you have an opportunity. You're shaping, not only are you supporting and coaching more mature leaders, but you have the opportunity to shape the younger generation. What are you seeing? What's some of your experiences? What could you share with our audience of what you're learning and what they're looking for in the
Yes.
workplace?
Well, I'll share a story. So I was telling you about this coaching class that I taught this fall, which was just like a dream. So what I did is I invited a leader that lives near Purdue. She's actually an executive to the class, and I said, "Would you be up for being coached in front of the class 4 or 5 times in the semester?
Mm,
And I'll coach you, or I'll bring in some other coaches." And what was really exciting about this was the students asked great questions.
mm,
So one thing I'd say to employers are these students are ready to contribute. So and allow them to contribute and embrace their ideas. So that was really exciting. And if you asked her, she'd say, "Oh, yeah, they were insightful, respectful, thoughtful." So that really has emerged for me. The other is looking for not only contribution but meaningful work. I think they're hungry for that, and I think how do you, as an employer, attach meaning to their job, even if it isn't their dream? Help connect it, or at least give them a pathway and hope towards that. So I think that's really important. And I think too, I think this is not just a college thing. I think we all have there's a mental health challenge in our country and the world. So talk about it, make sure they're okay, ask them how they're doing, provide support. Like, let's not shy away from the questions and just show them care, um, as a starting point. I think that's really important for leaders. So those are just a few things, Kathy. But that class, what some of their reflections were, it was great to see this live, but great to be a part of the contribution to helping this executive, with her leadership journey. So it was really fun.
I love it. Now, some of the other stuff, because when we had originally talked, because you'll do project management, helping them through running projects.
Hmm.
What's potentially different? What are you seeing that they've have experienced from their schooling? What's changed, and what's that bridge that we need to
Hmm.
help them with of going from college into the workplace?
Well, I think one thing is, like, for me, like, I want to make it really clear I learn from them as much as maybe they're getting from me. So we in our project management class, they do a consulting project with a like a technology company or non for profit. And during their final presentation, I think like last week, I'm like, oh wow, you did all this technological stuff for this company, this website analysis work, and half the stuff I'm like, I didn't understand. And I told him that. I said, I don't get this. I bet it's really helpful though. So like be like as an employer, be ready for that and learn from that. If you don't know how to do social media, ask them. They'll tell you and they'll teach you. So just be a learner. I just think embrace learning with them. So they shined. They did well. I mean, all at the beginning of class, I said my expectation as I'm delegating my network to you is that you, be professional and connect with them and communicate. And they did that. They owned that relationship and they performed really well. One of the clients or one of the partners said, "I'd hire two of your students like right now." Like that
That's
was
great.
exciting. Yeah, so it was fun to see that. I think they want a chance to contribute.
Yeah, I mean, been very fortunate. I have a couple interns that were in
Mm,
college and came to work with me, and
mm.
their knowledge and technical capabilities were off the chart. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, here you can." And I was
Go.
handing them stuff that I was like, "I can't believe I am comfortable," but they knew a lot more than I did,
Yeah.
and very excited to do it, and
Yep.
did a great job.
Yeah, I love that. That's so great that you just handed it to them. That's great. And you probably learned. I hand them my phone and I'll say, "Hey, take the picture," because I don't know what I'm doing. I'll say, "How do I use Instagram?" They help me.
Mhm.
You know.
Absolutely. And but they're looking for different stuff, right? Because they I think, and from what when I've worked with the younger generation, is they are used to a lot of information coming at them. They're
Mm,
used to researching, right? They've got information at their finger. We used to have to go to the library, right, and open an encyclopedia. They
mm.
now look at their phone and they can have all of this information. How do we harness that more in the workplace? Because I think that the gap sometimes, though, is some of the basic things that we know,
Mm,
they don't have knowledge of, like calendaring,
mm.
doing timesheets is not something that is going to work well with them. So
Yeah.
how do we as leaders help them bring some of that knowledge and skill?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think one is like clarifying that expectation and like, hey, I expect you to, here are some of the basics, like whether it's like a professional email or communication or the calendaring, or one of the things, one gap is just the networking skills, so teaching them how do you build professional relationships and network, and knowing that that is like a foundational skill. Teaching them that I think is really important. Take them out with you when they're networking. Show them what you do if you're in that kind of role. I think that's really valuable. With the project management class, I say, okay, I need to see evidence of you having a recurring calendar invite with your service learning partner, here, send them the link. You manage them. Don't wait for them to send it to you. So take that initiative. So I just try to teach them some of that stuff that, like you were saying, Kathy, that maybe you and I know that we want to make sure they have when they go. I feel a high sense of responsibility. It's like, I want you to have this and take this with you. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of leaders that have been around for a while just assume
Mm,
that everyone
mm,
knows what we know.
mm,
But it has to be taught in some
mm.
way, and they're not necessarily learning. If not every school is providing the classes that you're teaching, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So that's a good reflection, Kathy, for leaders on this that are listening. Like, what assumptions am I making about this student coming to work for me, and write those down? Like, okay, I'm assuming they know how to do calendar invites. I'm assuming they know how to send just write it down and then have the conversation. Like, hey, tell me what out of this list you feel really comfortable with and what don't you? And then you can teach them. So let's not assume, let's ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you think,
There, I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, Kathy, there's a question in the chat from Ralph. Do you want to do that? I,
Sure.
I don't know. What do you think is the greatest obstacle to better leadership for the next generation of younger leaders? Oh, that's a really great question. Do you want to start? I don't have an answer yet. That's a great question.
I
Thanks,
think,
Ralph.
yeah. So I'll talk a little bit as you think for your answer. I think for me, when I think about it, is that I think it goes back to the amount of knowledge that the younger
Mm,
generation has,
mm,
and fear that I think the older leaders are nervous, right? Oh,
mm,
these people know more than me,
mm,
and therefore they could be,
mm,
taking over my job. But
mm,
what I'm learning, and I think this is something as I talk to younger leaders and younger employees, they don't always respect the experience side of things
mm,
and how important experience is, because you might have read and done the research, but you can't have the knowledge of everything. And the things that a leader is faced with in the day to day world can be pretty extreme.
mm,
What do you do when someone shows up with an AR-15? I've had that threat from someone, right? And suddenly you're like, that wasn't in the playbook, right? I don't know. How
mm,
do you deal with someone that's just lost their parent? How do you deal with that we have no cash to pay our employees, right? There's some big things that are learned over time and can't all be learned in a textbook.
Yeah, that's really good. And even, AI will give us some steps and pathways and answers, and the experiential gap is big there. I think that's a great insight, Kathy. I think there are many obstacles. I think too, like this idea of kind of this culture of learning, like allow yourself as a more seasoned leader to be open to learning from the next generation, and that modeling that will allow them to hopefully learn from you too. So I think it starts with the older generation to kind of model that, hey, I don't know everything, let's learn together. And maybe you act more as a facilitator on your team, and make sure that strengths are being positioned well there. I think it's a great question. Certainly the fast pace of change, always adapting, that's a big one. Like,
Yeah.
that's for every, like, our heads are spinning half the time, right? So how do you sort of stay calm in the midst of the crisis? That would be another obstacle.
Yeah.
So yeah, good question there.
Yeah, and technology, right? Like you mentioned
Mm,
AI, that's gonna be a massive
mm,
disruptor in
mm,
the
mm,
business space.
mm. Yeah,
So, um,
embracing that I think is really good. We when our in our class, with the coaching class, I said, hey, you're going to have an AI coach this semester. Pick a developmental goal, and let's see how they do, and
wow.
compare that to a personal coach, like seeing what you're seeing in the classroom. Let's talk about it. So I think embracing some of that, I think, is really important.
That's neat. So
That's
so talk to me a little bit. I wanna hear, this is fascinating. So
mm,
they're getting an AI coach?
mhm. Yeah, so their first assignment was, coaching is all about, yeah, I think so, Ralph. It is a two-way street. I think there is so with coaching, it's all about development. So I said, okay, what is your developmental goal by student? So time management or um, being more assertive or whatever their developmental goals as a student, do better with my classes, whatever that was. And I said, okay, so let's work on this. You're going to work on it with your peer and live coaching in class. And then
Mm,
I want you to, I gave them a list like 5 coaches, free coaches. And I said, have a couple coaching sessions and let's see what you discover and write a reflection about it. So it was really fun. And some like, yeah, I got some good insights. Some were like, it was a little bit more rote, but I think they all got some ideas. So I thought, okay, that's great. I mean, the mixture of I think in person in that class along with AI, I think the students would say, yeah, I made some progress with my goal this semester. So that's good.
I love it.
Yeah.
I really, the thing that's sticking out for me, Chris, is as you talk about coaching and talking about it even at this younger age, right? I think so many people make the assumption that coaching is for executives.
Mm.
And it's really not. It's for all of us. And to have a growth mindset, it's to have people in your network that will challenge you, that will help you, that can give you insights, right? That coaching is powerful for wherever you are in your life.
Yeah, totally. That's so true. I love that you are thinking this way, Kathy, because I think we want to, the phrase democratize coaching or make it fully accessible. And
Yep.
AI is a part of that answer. And internal coaching is surging within companies. Certainly, there's executive and external. I think if we combine all of these, I think it can be super helpful for people, certainly with mental health, counseling access, developmental growth, organizational growth, culture. I think it's a great time in executive coaching land with our coaching world with AI. I think it's actually going to be a force for good. And I think the big questions for coaches, the ethics, the confidentiality, those pieces, we want to make sure we put a little fence around it. But I think it's a good time.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it. You're challenging me to think a little bit more into the AI side of it. So I love that. And I think we should have a whole nother conversation on that one, Chris,
Oh, that'd be
because
fun. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
We'll invite Chat GPT in and some of the other AI coaches, see if they can be a part of this live. That would be fun.
That would be fun. All right, let's figure out how we do that. Well, believe it or not, we are down at the bottom of the hour already.
Oh,
That's how
all
fast
right.
this time goes.
Awesome.
Um, for closing, what would be your advice for a leader today?
Hmm.
Of what's one or two things they should absolutely focus on to be successful?
Mm. I think first, in light of all the change and the environment and the stress, is really manage yourself, lead yourself, look to your renewal and your learning and your growth. Start there. I think that is so true, and even more important than ever. This will allow you to be the leader you want to be and show up authentically. And then second is just lead from who you are, embrace your strengths, be aware of your growth areas, embrace those, and I think I guess third is just be clear on what your vision is. I think your vision is great for you; it inspires you and sustains you, but it's also going to uh, support and direct your team. So those would be my 3.
I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Chris,
Thanks.
thank you so much for joining us and being here. And you had great insights. And I love the invite them to the growth zone.
Mm,
Really drive purpose into your
mm,
teams. That's what the
mm,
younger generation wants. And
mm,
be willing to learn from others.
mm.
And fantastic.
Well, thank you, Kathy. It was so great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you to the audience as well. Please feel free to reach out, Dr. Chris Bittinger from Open Pivot. And you can also check out, we have a boot camp starting on May 14th if you want more
Mm,
information about that. So
mm.
thanks all and have a great weekend. Take care.